Hello, everybody. So, today we're going to be talking about circadian rhythms, what they are, and why they're so important for health, anti aging, and helping to prevent chronic diseases. So, let's go ahead and get into it here. So, first off, let's start with what even is a circadian rhythm? What is circadian rhythm? So, the circadian rhythm is an approximately 24-hour internal clock which is actually possessed by essentially every single living organism on Earth. It's very conserved evolutionarily across all phyla of life. And additionally, we know that even 3.8 billion years ago, when the first life showed up on Earth, that basically every single organism since then has actually had a circadian rhythm, even going all the way back to the beginning of life. So circadian rhythms are extremely important and extremely conserved, extremely well conserved evolutionarily. And so what a circadian rhythm is, our brain actually keeps time via a special area of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is located in the hypothalamus. And that is the central clock of the body. And you can actually see a little diagram of it over here. This is basically approximately where the suprachiasmatic nucleus is in the brain. This is basically a cross section of the brain. So this is the interior of your brain that you're seeing here on this diagram. Additionally, so not only do we have the central clock in the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus, but additionally, essentially every single cell in your body, of which you have several trillion, they all also have their own internal clocks as well, which are called the peripheral clocks. And in normal, healthy conditions, they should be synced up essentially perfectly to the central clock. And that's a really big, important concept that we're going to be talking about here. And I'm going to be teaching you about actually sets the central clock and how to properly sync your peripheral and central clocks, not only to each other, but also with the rhythms of the earth. Okay, now I want to talk about why do humans have a circadian clock? Why is a circadian clock necessary in the body? So essentially, our physiology and behavior are shaped by the Earth's rotation and axis. So as you probably know, our Earth actually sits on an axis. It's actually tilted, so to speak, about 23.5 degrees on its axis. And additionally, as you probably know, our Earth is spinning, so our Earth is rotating, and a full rotation is a day. And not only is the actual Earth spinning, but it's also orbiting a star, which we call our sun, and a full orbit around the sun is a year. And so basically, these factors have influenced and directly shaped all life on Earth. And basically, what happened is that the biological circadian rhythm that all life has is simply an evolution and adaptation to help organisms, and in our case humans, adapt with maximum efficiency to our environment. And it actually, what it really does is it allows us to anticipate changes in radiation exposure, temperature, and food availability. And I have this quote down here that without the proper functioning of the endogenous circadian clocks, humans are not able to optimize metabolism and energy expenditure and internal physiology and function of the body. And essentially what the circadian clock is that it's an adaptation to the earth and the way that it's moving through space and its position in space, and especially in relationship to the sun. And it's an adaptation to that, and it's an adaptation that tries to anticipate the changes in day and night and time everything so that we have maximum efficiency of our internal physiology and metabolism. So for example, it would be very inefficient and thermodynamically unfavorable for us to have really high cortisol and have really high energy when it's dark at nighttime, when our body should basically be resting and recovering. And by the same token, it would be really inefficient thermodynamically for us to basically have low energy during the daytime, because then we wouldn't be able to hunt and get food and do our daily activities. So you want the clocks to be synced. So you want all the hormone changes and internal physiology to be yoked up to where we have maximum energy during the daytime, and then we're doing our repair programs at night. And so obviously when you mismatch these circadian rhythms, as almost everybody is doing in modern life, you can see how that can cause major problems and lead to disease and early aging. And in fact, the hypothesis that I'm presenting here is that circadian rhythm is one of, if not even perhaps probably the most important factor in anti-aging, as I'm going to talk about here and lay out for you. So this is an extremely important concept to grasp, and hopefully you understand the basis of why we have a circadian clock now. Okay, now I want to briefly just go over the importance of the circadian rhythm as it relates to the human clinical data in the medical literature that we have. So chronic diseases have been linked to circadian rhythm dysregulation, including things like diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes, obesity, all types of mental health disorders, cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative diseases, and autoimmune diseases. And basically what that means is that every single chronic disease has been linked quite strongly in the literature to circadian rhythm dysregulation. And we're going to find out exactly why in the rest of this presentation, exactly why that is. A couple of the reasons that I want to go over right now is that, so at night, we are supposed to be doing important functions. Like I said, we're basically supposed to be regenerating. We're also supposed to be doing memory consolidation and our learning. Our brain's supposed to basically be healing and consolidating the memories and activities and skills that it learned and facts that it learned. And basically, that's basically what helps us to remember as well as to acquire motor skills. And then, of course, as I just talked about, the healing. So your mitochondria undergo mitophagy and apoptosis, so they undergo repair or destruction if they're too damaged and need to be destroyed. And those are extremely important functions for health and anti-aging and avoiding chronic disease. And so that's what's supposed to be happening at night. And then in general, the circadian rhythm regulates eating habits and digestion, body temperature. It regulates all hormone release and also regulates metabolism in the mitochondria, as I just mentioned. So basically, you can see how almost all of the really important functions in the body, basically almost all of the physiology of the body is regulated by circadian rhythm. And this timing is really important because you don't want the healing program that's supposed to be running at night trying to run during the day, and you don't want the energy program that has high energy and high cortisol running at night when you're supposed to be resting and regenerating. So you can see how the timing of yoking up the proper metabolite and hormonal release with the proper time of day is extremely important for health, anti-aging, and preventing chronic disease. Okay, now I'm going to walk you through how circadian biology actually works in humans and how the physiology and mechanism works. So as I mentioned before, the central timekeeper of the body is the suprachiasmatic nucleus and the hypothalamus that you can see the picture right over here if you follow my cursor. So basically what happens is this area of the brain is regulated primarily by the light signal it gets from the environment that comes in through the eye, and then neural fibers actually connect from the eye to the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus via what's called the retinohypothalamic pathway. So the light that comes in through the eye, then neurons directly connect from the eye to this area of the brain, and that directly controls the circadian rhythm and the central clock in the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus. However, other things like temperature, activity, and food intake also act as secondary timekeepers, and we're going to talk about this more in a little bit. Okay, continuing on with how light regulates the circadian rhythm. So as darkness approaches, a lack of light through the eyes causes a lack of signaling from the eye via that retinohypothalamic pathway to the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus, and you can follow my cursor here as I go through this pathway. So a lack of signaling to the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus causes the activation of a nearby nucleus called the paraventricular nucleus. That nucleus then signals down through the intermediolateral cell column, which actually goes down the spinal cord, and it's actually part of the sympathetic nervous system. It activates preganglionic sympathetic neurons in the spinal cord. That then signals to the superior cervical ganglia, which is also part of the sympathetic nervous system. That then goes and innervates the pineal gland, and the innervation of that causes the pineal gland to convert serotonin into melatonin and then secrete that melatonin into the bloodstream. And so a lack of light through the eyes actually causes this whole thing to occur, which is the main point. It's also interesting, though, to note that the sympathetic nervous system is actually involved in going from the suprachiasmatic nucleus to the pineal gland to actually cause the pineal gland to make melatonin from serotonin and then secrete that melatonin into the bloodstream. Okay, that's what happens at nighttime when the lack of light through the eyes causes the pineal gland to secrete melatonin into the bloodstream. However, what happens during the daytime? So during the light cycle or during the day, neurons from the eye signal and activate the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and then that inhibits the paraventricular nucleus, which signals through the sympathetic nervous system and the superior ganglia to actually inhibit the pineal gland from converting serotonin into melatonin. So as a result, melatonin does not get released from pineal gland into circulation. Okay, we just went through the whole mechanism of how light is the main timekeeper that controls the main central clock in the suprachiasmatic nucleus of the hypothalamus. However, as I said before, there are other things that affect this central clock, and I want to go over these because it's really important. So light is the main timekeeper. However, meal timing and when you eat your meals also can shift the circadian clock. Activity early in the morning versus late at night when you're doing the activity can actually shift the circadian clock. Temperature actually can shift the circadian clock, especially your body temperature or lowering your body temperature through things like activity can do that. And then additionally, work and social interactions, working on your computer late at night when you usually work on it during the day, even if you are, wearing blue blocking glasses or things like that, can still shift it just because of the actual cue of work when you usually do it during the day and instead doing it at night. Or other environmental cues like social interactions can actually shift the circadian clock. And then certainly stress. So you don't want to be stressed during the evening when you're getting ready for bed. You want to be winding down, activating parasympathetic nervous system and getting ready to basically sleep and initiate that mitochondrial repair program. Okay, you now understand the basics of what the circadian mechanism is, how it works, and what the main things are that control it and that can shift the circadian clock. And so obviously you want to be going to bed when the sun goes down and you don't want any artificial light after dark. And then you want to be waking up when the sunrise, when the sun comes up, and you also want to be getting that sunlight through your eyes. So especially you want to be watching the sunrise, so to speak. You want to, basically wake up when the sunrise starts and then go outside and get that full spectrum sunlight in your eyes. Obviously you don't have to look directly at the sun ever, but just getting outside and getting that light in your eyes and then doing the same thing at sunset and then going to bed after sunset. I just want to circle back to that point and talk about how important it is and how the circadian rhythm basically affects and really controls basically everything in the body. So I want to start out with the brain. So in the hippocampus, when we have altered circadian rhythms, it's been shown in the literature that we decrease our ability to remember things and learn. It affects the heart. Circadian misregulation or circadian dysfunction and misalignment increases arterial pressure and causes hypertension. It can cause pathological enlarging of the heart and cardiomyopathy, increased risk of heart attacks. As far as cancer goes, it increases your risk of cancer. It can increase your risk of fatty liver disease because it basically controls metabolism, as I stated before. So it alters lipid and glucose metabolism. Decreases your sleep efficiency, which of course is going to decrease your mitochondrial health, which is the root cause of all disease. If you go watch my previous videos, I lay that out very clearly. Circadian rhythm literally controls all hormone release, so it's just going to completely mess up your hormones, which of course, if any of you have ever had hormone issues, you know that has an absolutely massive effect on how you feel and your health. Again, that's not going to affect your reproductive fitness because the reproductive hormones like FSH, LH, testosterone, estrogen, all these things are going to probably be off. And then lastly, again, it affects metabolism, so you're going to have altered insulin sensitivity and glucose homeostasis. So major systemic effects on every single system in the body. And the reason for that is because circadian biology controls every single system in the body. So the reason it affects the brain, the heart, the immune system, metabolism, the hormones, everything, is because it controls everything. And so when you screw up your circadian rhythm timing, you're really going to mess up basically everything. And it has just absolutely massive effects. And there's possibly no other way to age yourself faster than to be circadian misaligned. And so hopefully you understand that, how it works, the main things to do to actually be circadian aligned, and how to do that, and the importance of it. So this is a really cool slide that I found in one of the papers that I was reading. You can feel free to pause this and screenshot it if you want to take a picture of it. So it just gives overview of how the circadian rhythm works from a whole body perspective, and all the different clocks and all the different tissues. It also gives, I really like this box over here, it just gives a nice circadian clock related pathway of all the systems that it controls from a cellular level. So on the last slide, I talked about how circadian biology controls things from a tissue level. This actually goes a little even deeper and talks about how circadian biology controls everything at the cell level. So it controls neurogenesis and the health of neurons, and cortical development and neurotransmission and synaptic homeostasis in neurons. It controls inflammation, oxidative stress, redox signaling, and basically the entire mitochondrial function. And then it also affects blood-brain barrier health. So you can see it has major effects on the brain as well as really every other tissue in the body, because it basically controls every tissue in the body and its physiology and functions. I hope you this slide and get something out of it, and just wanted to share that. Okay, then for my last slide here, I just want to kind of give a nice conclusion to you guys. So as I mentioned before, circadian rhythm regulation is without a doubt one of the most important factors for aging. And I actually believe it is possibly and even probably the single most important factor in slowing down aging, maintaining health, and preventing disease, and especially chronic disease specifically. And the reason for that is that it controls the timing of basically all physiological processes. Basically, every single chronic disease has been linked to circadian disruption, as I showed before. And circadian rhythms, again, are conserved across every single living species, including bacteria and fungi, even going back to the very beginnings of life on Earth. We know that even those cells and organisms actually all had circadian rhythms, even basically 3.8 billion years ago. So clearly it is absolutely essential to have a circadian rhythm, and preferably to have a good one, for all life on Earth. And it's funny, when you think about aging, what is aging? Aging is literally the passage of time in your body and in your tissues. And the passage of time is actually measured by an increase of entropy in the system. Clocks, what a clock is actually effectively a flow meter for entropy. And so are all circadian clocks are effectively a flow meter for entropy. So essentially, really what you want to do, if you want to maximally reduce your aging and slow your speed of aging and reduce the entropy and decay in your body, your highest priority should be maintaining proper circadian alignment. It is absolutely critical for maintaining health, slowing down aging, and preventing chronic disease to maintain proper circadian alignment, because this is literally the clock in your body that is controlling all physiological processes and is also basically keeping track of your age. So hopefully in this last slide, I was really able to put things together, and you can literally see how this is the age clock that controls how much entropy is occurring in your body. And so when you do things like stay up till 1 a.m. looking at your phone or things like that, or eat really late, or exercise in a blue lit gym at 11 p.m., you can see how that completely misaligns your circadian clock, and that disrupts all these physiological processes which it controls, and it basically controls almost everything. And that can earlier aging and chronic disease. So everything possible should be done to try to maintain as precise circadian alignment as possible. And this includes, light dark cycle alignment, meal timing alignment, activity and exercise timing alignment, work timing alignment. You want to also be, doing work, at certain times versus others, doing wind down activities at the proper time. And then there's also, and this is something that I'm not going to go into great depth in this video on, but not only is there daily circadian rhythms, which I just mentioned right above, but there's also seasonal circadian rhythms. So things like eating a local seasonal diet with seasonal macronutrient distribution and seasonal and local deuterium concentrations. And again, deuterium's a whole other topic that I'll go into in future content, but I just want to mention that there. And then also having appropriate local and seasonal temperature gradients and light gradients. These things are really important and all control the circadian clocks and circadian biology in your body and in your tissues. And when all of these environmental factors are yoked up perfectly to the environment that you're in, you have optimal aging and optimal health, versus when these factors are basically misaligned. When all of these circadian factors are misaligned, you have greatly accelerated speed of aging and basically entropy within your body when you have these circadian misalignments. So hopefully this was able to shed some light, pun intended, on circadian biology and kind of just how important it is, and give you some tips on some of the really important things you can do to try to maintain optimal circadian alignment as much as possible, which will, my belief at least, and in the literature, it has been shown to promote optimal health and to slow down aging and help to prevent chronic disease. And so I think this is a really important topic, and hopefully I was able to explain this and help you get some understanding of both the actual topic itself and some of the things you can do to help live a healthier and longer life. Okay, and then lastly, I just want to say thanks so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like, comment, or subscribing, as it really helps support the channel. And just as a last disclaimer, this video is purely for educational purposes. This is not medical advice. Thanks for watching.